The 100th birthday party for the Statue of Liberty is underway in New York Harbor, and Lady Liberty doesn't have to worry that no one will show up.
From New York Harbor, NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening from a windy New York Harbor, which is rapidly filling up with boats and ships of all sizes for this spectacular salute to the Statue of Liberty tonight, while on shore the southern tip of Manhattan is jammed with spectators. They have been expecting tens of thousands of boats and ships for this weekend, and it does look as if they have a good start on that number, although how anyone could count them all is beyond me. Many are moored just off the Statue of Liberty for a close-up look at the lighting ceremonies tonight. Power boats, yachts, sailboats, liners, sightseeing ships. It's a most irregular Navy. And keeping track of all of this, 90 regular Coast Guard vessels assisted by 250 auxiliary boats, local police, the FBI, and the Secret Service. Security is a major concern. So far, however, no problems. The brisk winds and the heavy chop in the harbor are not a problem for the larger ships, and they don't seem to be discouraging the smaller boats either. As NBC's Dennis Murphy reports now, this is a sailor's kind of a weekend.
Tom, it will be the biggest gathering of ships in the history of New York Harbor, bigger now even than the bicentennial parade. The sailing ships and the dinghies and the battleships all met today at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. The celebration began this morning as a flotilla of 200 graceful sailing ships made its way down the East River. These are the vessels that will accompany the tall ships up the Hudson River tomorrow. There was a time in the age of sail when Americans knew the difference between a brig and a bark and a topsail schooner, but for most of the hundreds of thousands of spectators lining the shore today, these ships were simply remarkable vessels of mast and canvas. The parade, a thrilling curtain raiser for the weekend ahead.
It's a happy feeling, it's freedom, it's everything.
The song says, God bless America, and I think with His grace we'll see things through.
Under the bridges they sail, a vast armada converging on New York Harbor and the Statue of Liberty. There, an estimated 3,000 ships and boats met. As the schooners headed south, the military ships of 13 nations passed in review going up the Hudson River. The Japanese, the French, and two of the mightiest ships in the U.S. Navy, the battleship Iowa, a veteran of World War II, and the aircraft carrier the John F. Kennedy, with 3.5 acres of deck. Keeping track of it all, the little boats and the Queen Elizabeth II was the Coast Guard.
Tonight, when we secure the security zone for Chief Justice Berger, it's going to be another headache trying to get the...
From a traffic control room at Coast Guard headquarters, Captain Gene Henn and his officers are responsible for every vessel in the harbor. Tomorrow, they're expecting 40,000 pleasure boats during the tall ship parade.
This is a celebration. You come, you enjoy, and we'll be there to help you out if you get in trouble.
Today, there was no trouble despite the choppy water. Tomorrow morning at 10, the tall ships that sailed from Europe and South America and Asia will begin their majestic procession before the Statue of Liberty. The Coast Guard has been planning this event for the last 2 years. There are 2,000 Coast Guard men and women out here working on boating safety and security. Tom?
Thanks very much, Dennis. Across the harbor, New York City is coping with its huddled masses. The millions of tourists teeming on its shore for what many believe will be the birthday party of a lifetime. NBC's Jennifer McLogan reports tonight on how people in the Big Apple are dealing with all of this. Jennifer?
Tom, nobody is really sure how many visitors have come to New York, but the estimates start at 5 million.
All afternoon, hundreds of thousands of revelers converged on Battery Park. New York had geared up for this for months. The mayor went so far as to say the whole world has been invited. Hannah Wilson is from New York.
That lady out there really symbolizes it all. She's standing there and welcomes everybody.
Henny Bergman is an immigrant from Germany.
Has a great deal of meaning to me. I'm here because I wanted to be here. I feel like celebrating.
The airports were crowded with tourists. 15,000 planes are scheduled to land and take off this Liberty weekend, 25% more than normal.
Brought a lot of Kleenex, expect to feel a lot of emotion.
The visitors' enthusiasm was undiminished by a strike of 4,000 cab drivers.
A little bit on strike, though. We'll probably be here a couple hours then.
Fearing the worst on the roadways, tourists and New Yorkers alike took to the subways and arrived in lower Manhattan to a sea of street festivals, concerts, balloons, and banners. Vendors steamed 1 million hot dogs and carted in 7 million cans of soda.
Stand at ease, listen up.
New York's finest were out in force. Many rookies just out of the police academy. Their first big test, directing traffic.
All you have to do is make sure that your intersection stays clear so that when you get a green light, the opposing direction does not prevent you from moving traffic.
50 blocks of lower Manhattan are being closed to vehicles. Traffic was heavy, but by New York standards, it looked like a typical rush hour. With millions of tourists pouring in, thousands of New Yorkers seemed more concerned with getting out.
Since I don't have an opportunity to hang out on Malcolm Forbes' yacht, I figured what the heck, I might as well go and relax outside of the city.
For a while, it looked as though the city may have no fireworks tomorrow night. But at the last minute, it was finally managed to get $25 million in liability coverage. Tom?
Thanks, Jennifer. The star of the weekend, of course, is the Statue of Liberty, but there are some major supporting actors, and they begin arriving in town this afternoon. President Reagan, using for the first time a 14-seat executive jet, dubbed the Air Force C-10, landed at a suburban airport north of New York City. He and his wife Nancy boarded a helicopter for a short flight to the Rockefeller estate, where the Reagans will stay. And French President Mitterrand, whose country gave America the Statue of Liberty, arrived aboard the Concorde at New York's Kennedy Airport, accompanied by his wife, Danielle. They will join the Reagans on Governor's Island tonight. And in just a moment, we'll return from Governor's Island here in New York Harbor with more on the celebration of a beautiful lady's birthday, the Statue of Liberty, for which bells rang today across this country.
You are about to witness a crime. 2 pickpockets moving through a crowd of vacationers.
There, that guy.
Which guy?
In the red shirt.
Yeah.
Waiting for just the right moment to strike. It could happen to you, so don't carry cash, carry American Express traveler's checks, authorizing refunds 24 hours a day. Don't leave home without them.
People can't get over the change in me. I guess it's just that I feel so good about myself now. What happened is I went on a diet, and it worked. I took Dexatrim and I lost weight, and that really made me happy. Let me tell you, it's a lot more pleasant being around me now. Probably because there's a lot less of me to be around.
Dexatrim people. They're living proof that Dexatrim works.
Heading out across America, spreading the word near and far. Working together every race, daring the weather every place. We deliver the mail for America till the last letter is gone. Delivering for America, no matter what, we carry on.
The National Association of Letter Carriers, delivering for America.
That's the aircraft carrier, the John F. Kennedy. New York City officially opened the Liberty Weekend celebration at noon today with the ringing of a replica of the Liberty Bell. This ceremony was at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and those who took part included Chief Justice Warren Burger, John Cardinal O'Connor, and French Ambassador Emmanuel Marjorie. Hundreds of red, white, and blue balloons were released, and Foundation Chairman Lee Iacocca declared, "Let's make freedom ring throughout this land." The Statue of Liberty, of course, was sent here by Frenchmen who believed in democracy as a way of cementing France's ties with another great democracy, the United States. But as Gary Gutley reports now, over the years, it has come to symbolize much more than that.
The idea is majestic, and so is she. Liberty, enlightening the world. She is the preeminent symbol of America, endowed with the virtues a nation strives to live up to. The creation of Frederick Auguste Bartholdi, a French society artist.
Bartholdi was a self-propelled artist. He was a can-do sort of fellow. He wanted to build a monument for which he would be remembered.
Bartholdi's original idea was to build his statue not in New York, but at the entrance to the Suez Canal. When that plan fell through, he switched his monumental ambition to the American statue. It was a colossal undertaking, and it was possible only after Gustav Eiffel, the man who built the Eiffel Tower, perfected a new structural system still used in today's skyscrapers. The hardest job, though, was to generate American interest in the project. Our government was unwilling to pay for its pedestal. In 1876, Bartholdi brought the torch to the United States on a sales trip. Money for the pedestal was eventually raised from private contributors, and in 1886, the statue was dedicated. It was the tallest edifice in New York. From the beginning, it was a symbol to be used to sell lawnmowers or thread, or war bonds during World War I. That's when the lady became a patriotic symbol. But it was the flood tide of immigrants at the end of the 19th century, the huddled masses of Emma Lazarus's poem, that made it a statue of opportunity as well. For those arriving in a new world, it took on a mythical stature. For 2 years now, the statue has been shrouded in scaffolding as workers climbed around her carefully, repairing a century of corrosion. $30,000 new rivets were pounded into her. Her right arm was reinforced, and a new torch was made by a team of French craftsmen. The cost of all this, about $66 million from corporate and private contributions, although through tax deductions, it adds up to a sizable government subsidy. Unfortunately, the work has left a cosmetic problem, a stain on the face. A cleaning solution used on the inside leaked and stripped away part of the copper skin. But despite that, the statue is ready for its centennial, and the celebrations, and the question, why is it creating all this excitement?
Auguste Bartholdi does not rank as one of France's or the world's great sculptors, but his monument, which embodies the American spirit and tradition, reflects noble ideas.
That monument has something an army of workers could not apply, no amount of money could ever buy. It is a coating of pride from a nation, which, when it looks at the statue, hopes to see itself. Garrick Utley, NBC News, New York.
The statue, by the way, was dedicated not on the 4th of July, but on October 28th, 100 years ago. It was cloudy and rainy, and that kept many people from seeing it as clearly as they might have. The New York Times wrote that it was almost a national misfortune that the weather interfered to prevent the ceremonies from being brilliantly successful. No weather problems seen here tonight.
She's beautiful. Right on.
Looking good.
Quite a lady.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Miss Liberty. Happy birthday to you.
We're proud to honor her too. We're Liberty Mutual Insurance.
In other news today, there was still more violence in South Africa. The government reporting that 3 more blacks killed in political unrest. And near Cape Town, a bomb exploded at a police station, injuring 2 officers, 1 a woman, and showering the area around the building with glass and debris. It was South Africa's 12th bombing since the state of emergency began 3 weeks ago. In Chile, on this final day of a 48-hour strike to protest military rule, 4 opposition radio stations, including the most popular station in Santiago, remain barred from broadcasting news. The military government is planning the arrest of 17 civic leaders who called for the work stoppage, but the strike did appear to be successful as shops and transportation in Santiago, the capital, remain shut down. 3 people have been killed in strike-related violence in that country. In Colombia today, Pope John Paul II visited the country's holiest shrine high in the Andes. It was there that church history says the Virgin Mary stepped from a painting 4 centuries ago. In a homily to some 150,000 people, the Pope called for special attention to the peasants, saying that they have a legitimate right to land reform, a right that, he said, must be protected. The Soviet Union today gave an update on last April's Chernobyl nuclear accident. It said that while the situation in the area now has improved, quote, life will not return to normal for some time, in part because of the contaminated zone. And a Soviet official reported that 27 people had died from the Chernobyl accident. 187, he said, still were receiving medical treatment. 100,000 altogether had been evacuated from an area 20 miles around the damaged reactor. In this country today, a federal judge in Washington ordered the Attorney General's Pornography Commission to withdraw a letter telling stores that they have been listed as sellers of pornography because they carry Playboy and Penthouse magazines. After receiving those letters, several chain stores stopped selling the magazines. But Playboy challenged that letter as a violation of the Constitution. And today, Judge John Garrett agreed. John Garrett Penn, that is, agreed with Playboy's challenge today. And this item, soul singer Teddy Pendergast, who was left paralyzed after a car crash 4 years ago. He is in critical condition tonight after another crash. He lost control of his specially equipped van while driving in a Philadelphia suburb today. He slammed into a telephone pole. He suffered serious internal injuries, but doctors say he could be out of the hospital in about a week. Also, conservative Republican Congressman James Broyhill of North Carolina is now the newest member of the U.S. Senate. He was named today by Governor James Martin to complete the Senate term of John East, who committed suicide after announcing that he would not seek re-election. Broyhill had already won the Republican nomination for that seat, and he will be running against Democratic former Governor Terry Sanford in November. And Judge John Sirica, who presided over the Watergate trials, is retiring in October. He is 82 years old. He's been on the bench for almost 30 years now. He says, quote, he has earned the right to take it easy for a time.
In the morning, in the evening, Carnival's got the fun. Not much money, but oh honey, Carnival's got the fun. It's such a good time, we're spreading the news. 'Cause there's just no time like a Carnival cruise. Sunny weather, all together, Carnival's got the fun.
Take a 3, 4, or 7-day cruise on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
She's beautiful, Grandpa.
Wasn't my grandpa brought me here back in 1986. Gave me this U.S. Liberty coin.
Wow, that's a beauty, too.
Mighty precious, minted by the U.S. Treasury to celebrate her centennial.
Is that why your grandpa got it?
And so I could give it to you.
United States Liberty coins, singly or in sets at banks, savings and loans, and Montgomery Ward stores. Keep Liberty in mint condition forever.
Morning, boys.
Oh, hi.
Like to see how your cereals stack up to Total?
Sure, come on.
To get the vitamins in one bowl of Total, it takes 3 bowls of Special K.
Looks like you'll need some help, Will.
You'll have to eat 4 bowls of All Brand.
You're gonna be pretty busy yourself, Pete.
And you, 12 bowls of shredded wheat.
Oh, Flo, Joe's gonna need a little more milk.
Total has 100% of 9 vitamins and iron, a stack of nutrition in just 1 bowl.
Why, Total's always been our favorite. Yeah.
That's Ellis Island in New York Harbor, and this evening, Chief Justice Warren Burger will administer the oath of citizenship to several hundred new Americans on Ellis Island, and via television, Burger will swear in hundreds of other new citizens in Miami, San Francisco, and St. Louis.
I declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely.
In Washington, about 100 new Americans were made citizens in a ceremony presided over by Federal District Judge Gerhard Gesell. Gesell refused to include the Washington swearing in with those of the other 3 cities. He felt that television commercials that were part of the proceedings would detract from the dignity.
That I take this obligation freely without
throughout the country. Almost 700 people took the oath on the steps of the state capitol in Sacramento. And Governor George Duke Major, the son of an immigrant, was on hand for that occasion. Others have come to this country because of this lady's last name, Liberty. Liberty from cruel political conditions at home. Liberty is one of those values that those of us who have lived here all of our lives don't have to think about very much. But NBC's John Hart has been spending time with that theme, and tonight he begins his examination of liberty in Southeast Asia.
In this case, it is helpful to keep in mind the extreme youth of the communists who took over Cambodia for Pol Pot. The boys with guns who found it possible to assist in the torture, starvation, and execution of 1/4 of their countrymen.
Every single evening, very, very often, there was execution. I tried to find whatever possible to survive.
At the service station he operates in Washington, D.C., Cassie New describes survival.
We were very, very hungry because we were forced to work very hard, 15 to 16 hours a day. I ate whatever I could grab from the ground. Sometimes centipedes, sometimes millipedes that crawl across my leg. I just grab them and chew them up and swallow.
Because he spoke English, New was jailed and tortured, accused of being a spy. He'd been a translator of English literature. Literature saved his life. He told Aesop's fables to the boys with guns, and while other prisoners were taken for execution, he was kept back.
After 1 or 2 names is taken out, 1 or 2 prisoners taken out, okay, now you tell stories.
Having survived and escaped, he tells his stories now to his children, how in Cambodia he'd heard of America's liberty and opportunity. Struggling to make a broken-down gas station pay, he looks back at his expectations.
Freedom and liberty is what I thought. I got what I thought, but opportunity is tough.
In the case of Guatemala, it is useful to keep in mind that during military dictatorship, as many as 30,000 people disappeared, kidnapped by death squads, most of them presumed executed. Almost a victim was Dr. Edgar Bateta, a Guatemalan physician now working as a house painter in New York. The men who bombed his clinic came back to warn him.
The men say, I put the other bomb more strong for destroy all family. I'm very afraid after that.
No one ever told him why, but Dr. Bateta thinks he may have been treating someone the government didn't like.
I fled my country after this, and I live here, I have freedom, I go to my house, I go to work. I don't think anybody take me. Does Janet have the key?
Bateta is learning English, pressing his request for political asylum, not sure of the new civilian government of Guatemala. Of South Africa, it is well to remember that liberty is reserved to whites who are less than 1/5 of the population, with reduced liberty for whites who oppose the racial system. Death from this disagreement is reserved mostly to blacks. A living victim of apartheid is poet Dennis Brutus, now a teacher in Pennsylvania, as he once was in South Africa, using his political asylum here to attack American policies there, using memories of a prison where he was regularly beaten and of the prison warden.
He said, there's hope for the rapists and the murderers. He said, but political prisoners, you can only shoot them. There's no cure.
Liberty was understood when it was denied, in Cambodia by communists. In Guatemala by fascists. In South Africa by racists. One of the characteristics of liberty, perhaps of human nature, is that those of us who have it turn to those who lost it to bring home to us what we have. John Hart, NBC News, New York.
We'll have more from New York Harbor in just a moment.
Comfort's coming.
Train announces a revolution in comfort. The new XL 1200 air conditioner. It comes with the comfort of up to 50% greater energy efficiency. The comfort of an exclusive 10-year warranty. The comfort of a specially trained serviceman who knows it well. The new XL 1200 air conditioner. Get comfortable with it.
Comfort's coming from Train.
Train air conditioning. 50 million people take comfort in it.
We're MCI. We match ourselves with a worthy opponent, then put them to the test of competition. And because we compete with tenacity as well as technology, we've built a network so modern, it enables you to leverage our knowledge to your advantage. MCI, thousands of people who compete for one reason, to help you win. MCI, communications for the next 100 years.
At Red Lobster's Lobster Fest, you have a few weeks to fall in love.
You'll go insane for lobster from Maine or langostino that you love, tails that you'll dream of.
12 special lobster dishes starting at an irresistible $7.95.
Lobster Mornay, too, it's gonna thrill you. About to make your heart throb.
Now at Red Lobster's Lobster Fest, come on in and fall in love.
There has been a fair amount of criticism that the symbolic value of the Statue of Liberty is being diminished by all of this hype, hoopla, and commercialism, the parties and the yachts. And in a way, that criticism and the celebration represent a perfect blend of America. The big, gaudy, conspicuous symbols of success, which to many represent the fulfillment of the American dream, and the freedom of others to say aloud, no way, that's not what my America is all about. A country large enough to safely harbor both points of view and lots more. Fact is that most Americans love the outsized, the Super Bowl, the Grand Canyon, the big deal, and this may be the biggest party ever. But it will not be a success if it remains in our memory as just a collection of yachts and lights and fireworks. What will make all of this worthwhile will be a reaffirmation, after all, of liberty, freedom, and tolerance. That's Nightly News for now. Brian Gumble and I will be back here tonight at 10, 9 Central Time, with a celebration of liberty, an NBC News special report. I'll see you then.
Aerial camera facilities provided by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company.
Tonight on The Cosby Show, they'll be singing their praises. And on Family Ties, Alex is growing a what?
Mustache.
Then on Cheers, are Cliff and Diane the new hot item?
What's wrong with this picture?
And on Night Court, a crazy judge has Bull wigged out.
Tonight